All right, we are going to go to part 2 of weak points of this Dynasty roster review for Adam Bisson's team. So again, we kind of looked through, we saw that it was a deep format. So I thought a good idea for today would kind of go through my process on how to build depth in these deep roster leagues, because it can be challenging and a lot of people run into trouble because they don't continuously update the end of their roster, and then they just slowly but surely get chipped away at the people who are grinding the waiver wire and things of that nature. So today we're going to take a quick look at one of my teams, one of my Dynasty teams. You're probably not going to be surprised with any of the players you see on these teams, and then we're going to go from there. We're going to identify the weaknesses here, and then we're going to go to the waiver wire. This is a 31 roster spot Dynasty league. It's super flex, and it's 2 tight ends. So that's the context there. You only need to start 1 running back and 1 wide receiver, and there's like 6 or 7 flexes. So super deep league. You don't need a lot of running backs or wide receivers, but you need to fill out those 7 flex spots in one shape, way, or form. So we're not going to talk about this roster today, but I'm going to talk about, all right, we're in a deep league, 31 roster spots with 12 teams. That is what, like, what's 31 times 12? Let's figure that out together. What's 31? 31 times 12. All right, so 372. That means there's 372 players generally rostered in this Dynasty League at a given time. That is a lot of players. And we know, beyond the top 30 of each position, for wide receiver, it's probably top 40 or top 50. There aren't really that many fantasy relevant players beyond that. So, we look at the weaknesses here. What are my weaknesses on this 31 roster spot league? It's obviously not quarterback. I'm set there. It is not wide receiver. I'm set there. But then you kind of start to take a look at these tight ends. I have Pat Freiermuth, who's going to be in my lineup every week. But then, you look at Jelani Woods, Tommy Tremble, and Jacob Harris, who's transitioning to wide receiver. You say, yikes, 2 tight end league, and those are your wide receivers, Russ. You're trying to compete this year. And then we go over to running back. We say, all right, Travis Etienne and Ken Walker, maybe a little Sony Michel late, but there's not really much depth here, and we can't really sustain an injury at running back this year. So quickly, we've identified the weaknesses. And for this team specifically, running back and tight end. So I'm going to go to the waiver wire. And on my fantasy league, you go to reports, you go to players, and then you go to complete free agent listing, right? And so what I like to do is this lists every single player that is available in the My Fantasy League database. I like to go through, check the ownership percentages, see if in my league there are any players that are owned at a much higher rate than the other players. So sometimes, I'll pick up players just because they have a higher ownership than what is, compared to the rest of the league. As you can see, there's nobody over 50% on owned among all the Dynasty leagues in my fantasy leagues database. There's no player over 50%, and most players are under 10%. So we're dealing with some pretty ugly rules here. So quarterback, we don't need quarterback, but if I needed a quarterback, maybe I'd take a look at Mason Rudolph getting some first-team snaps with Pittsburgh. But we're going to move on to running back. I need running back. And look at that. There might be a few here. Jeffrey Wilson, Samaje Perine, Matt Breida behind Saquon Barkley, Kine Nwangwu, super athletic. So there are some guys out here that I could maybe take a shot on. And then the question is, are they better than the guys that are currently rostered for me? The Kyron Williams, the Isaiah Pacheco. What am I thinking about those guys since I drafted them? And then a guy like Jordan Mason, who's making waves in training camp. Do I want to preemptively pick him up because he's making waves and see what's going to happen there? That might be a move for me because I don't really have any connection to Kyron Williams other than I drafted him late in the rookie draft. Same thing with Pierre Strong, et cetera, et cetera. We want to churn this roster as much as we can with these low-end sort of pieces and hope we hit on something. We're looking for that Elijah Mitchell in the scrap heap of misfit toys. So, Matt Breida, Jordan Mason, Jeffrey Wilson, maybe I pick up Jeffrey Wilson and Jordan Mason and say, all right, I hope one hits. So that's kind of what we're looking at with running back here, and then we're going to go to tight end and say, please, can there be anything? Is there anything here? And the answer is not really. The answer is there is not much here at all. I will tell you, Kyle Rudolph is probably a guy that I should pursue. And also, I was looking at Cole Turner, kind of good pub out of camp, 5th round pick out of Nevada. 6'6", 240. Nobody's really emerged there in Washington. So I think that's a guy I might target as well. But moving back to this team, using those structures, we got 5 guys here that we can have movement with. Samaje Perine, obviously on the upper end of this list. A guy you can maybe look at, and we like to have him with Joe Mixon. That's really 4 or 5 guys that you can roster churn with. Tyrod Taylor, Nick Foles. I would say arguably you don't really need those guys on your roster, and maybe they would be better served kind of focusing on running back, wide receiver, and tight end. Just because it's, a Lamar Jackson injury is possible, but reality is your season's going to come and go with what these guys are doing. So if 2 of these guys go down, you're going to be in trouble regardless of who your sort of backup is. So I would maybe punt here, these 2 guys, Foles and Tyrod. There's no dynasty upside there. I would be rostering a lot of the guys you already have here. Jerome Ford, Kennedy Brooks, Kyron Williams, those types. Maybe get rid of Larry Roundtree, pick up Jordan Mason, pick up, who are the other guys? Jeffrey Wilson, Matt Breida. Maybe pick up some of those guys. And Keeney, hyper athletic guy. Really like him. Kylan Hill even. I would look into those guys instead of the quarterbacks. And also, watch training camp. How often are your waivers running this offseason? Take a look at that and fire away here. So similar thoughts here. I'm not attached to really anyone, among these 5 guys. KJ Osborne definitely going to be moving up in the dynasty ratings, as I mentioned. But this crew, I'm not really seeing much here that I'm passionately connected to. Wide receivers should be available in this format. 35 roster spots. Again, you might be even lower end than what I'm looking at here, but this is a pretty barren depth chart. What I would say is, N'Keal Harry might be out there. He's worth picking up. Isaiah McKenzie, as I was joking around, TJ Vasher, get the Texas Tech stack going. Mike Woods, these are all guys that were kind of looking good in college for a while. Juwan Jennings, a guy that was playing snaps for San Francisco last year. You never know with an injury there. That's kind of the bottom line, but you get what I'm doing, right? James Prochet with Baltimore. Really interesting player out of SMU a few years ago. You just got to plug away here. There's not going to be that diamond obviously showing itself. It's going to be grinding it out over time, constantly, running through and looking for the latest updates and plugging away here. So that's kind of how, and you have been doing that. You have some nice pieces that you've kind of plugged away at. But yeah, that's how you're going to build up this depth here and continue to sort of work this waiver wire. A lot of people want to build depth through trades, and that's fine, but this is my way of sort of scrounging that, squeezing that towel until there's absolutely no water to wring out of it. Because, my thought also with the waiver wire is every guy you can snag off here is a guy, and that becomes valuable, is less value to somebody else. So, all right. And then finally, Max Williams coming back from injury, but coming into a really, really, tough depth chart to scale. We got Trey McBride there, and also we have Zach Ertz. So not too optimistic here about plugging away there. But as I mentioned, maybe replace him with Cole Turner or a Kyle Rudolph, who may have a shot at snaps this year. Guys like that, I might pull the trigger on. So there you go. Josiah DeGuara is another one. Might play 2 tight end snaps with the Packers this year. I do think they liked him, if not for the issue, with yeah. So, the injury last year is what I was trying to say. But my brain, you guys saw my brain melt. I forgot everything about Josiah DeGuara, just left my consciousness for a second there. So anyway, there you go. That is the sort of improvements I see here. I do like the base. One other thing I'll mention is that you could be getting old quick here if you don't watch out. So just be aware of that. And keep an eye on the younger running backs. Maybe you can find something here. So anyway, all right, I will see you at the final grade.